Day 8. I woke up with the feeling that someone had whispered my name. No one had. It was just the echo of my own thoughts bouncing off the walls. The woman slept leaning against the column, her face carved by exhaustion. Outside, the city had that kind of silence that doesn't comfort. Silence of held breath.
I stood up slowly, my body heavier than the day before, like every night was adding kilos of fatigue to my bones. I went to the broken window of the office building. 3 streets in sight, 3 different stories of ruin. No whistles, no gunshots. But from far away, almost swallowed by the wind, I heard it. Clicks, dry, regular, like someone snapping their tongue against the roof of their mouth in a pattern. 2, pause, 3, repeated. The same sound pattern from day 7.
Did you hear that? I asked, without turning. She woke with that jolt only people who sleep scared can have. Again? I nodded. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if that could make the sound disappear. Could just be someone calling a dog, she tried. Could, I agreed, but no dog calls zombies over that efficiently. The clicking came again. Longer now. Closer. It wasn't a human calling for help. It was something calling for trouble.
Observation number 17. If a sound repeats the same way at different times in different places, it's not chance. It's a system. We should go the other way, she said. That's exactly why I feel like going the right way. She looked at me like I'd finally lost it for good. You're joking. We're stuck between 2 groups that already understand what's happening, I answered, the whistle people and the click people. I looked out the window again. If we just keep running, we'll die tripping over their map. And if we go to the source? At least we find out the size of the monster before we become part of it.
Deep, weary. Intensity, medium, controlled. She took a deep breath, staring at the floor. The kind of breath of someone who already knows there are only bad choices here. Some just take longer to kill you. Fine, she said, nodding. But if at any point it feels like we're bait, we turn back. Deal. I lied. We left the building while the sky was still an undefined gray. Weak light helped more than it hurt. We walked glued to the walls, avoiding open concrete. Every corner, stop. Every stop, 3 checks. Sound, smell, wind.
Timber, deep, weary. The clicks came from the east, from the area with taller buildings. Once it had been law firms, clinics, co-working spaces, glass coffee shops. Now a forest of dead concrete. Along the way we saw marks. More of those white chalk circles on walls, like improvised sites. Some had red handprints in the middle. Others just a line crossing them out, like that point had been cancelled. They're editing the neighborhood, I muttered. How? Erasing what doesn't matter, marking what does. I touched one of the circles with my fingertip. Powder stuck to my skin. We're just a note they haven't crossed out yet. She looked away.
Timber, deep, weary. Intensity, medium, rhythm, fast, controlled. 92 BPM. We reached the main avenue that led to the office blocks. There, the smell changed. Less trash, less exposed sewage. More dust, wet paper, paint, burnt plastic. It was like stepping into a part of the world that had been too sure of itself until it collapsed. The clicks got clearer. Tech, 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 tech. Repeated. Calculated. We climbed a sidewalk full of abandoned cars, shattered shop fronts reflecting broken pieces of sky. At number 312, we stopped. The source was there.
Tim Deep Weary. A 6-story building, cracked mirror facade, revolving door stuck halfway. Up on the 3rd floor, a window stood open. From that darkness, the clicks flew out like invisible bats.
Tech, tech. Pause. Tech, tech, tech. I expected to see people in the window, she whispered. Me too. But nothing moved. No human shadow. No flashlight beam. No smoke. Just sound.
We forced a broken side door and went in. The lobby was covered in papers, overturned chairs, a deflated inflatable mascot limp in the corner like a plastic corpse. The air smelled of mold and old coffee. We climbed the stairs slowly, testing each step with our toes. Second floor, empty meeting rooms, flipped desks, a whiteboard with sales goals from a world that no longer exists. The sound was coming from above. Third floor. We stopped at the door. The clicks came from there, clear, rhythmic, like someone on the other side of the wall was rehearsing the same code over and over. I looked at her. She shook her head no. Still, she raised her gun. I pushed the door with the iron pipe. It creaked open, painfully slow. We stepped in. What we saw wasn't what I expected. A wide room, former call center floor. Rows of desks, rolling chairs, broken partitions. In the middle, 4 old corpses, almost just bones and cloth. A chair on its side with a headset dangling. On the back wall, a framed motivational quote. And in the center of the room, tied with ropes to a support pillar, was the author of the clicks.
Timbre, deep, weary. Intensity, medium, rhythm, fast, controlled. It wasn't human. It was infected. Thin, skin glued to bone, arms bound behind the torso. Head crooked, neck strapped by a leather strip. Legs held in place with fabric bands, like someone wanted it upright no matter what. And the mouth? The mouth was free. There, it snapped its tongue against the roof of its mouth in a perfect pattern. Empty eyes fixed on a spot on the ceiling, like it couldn't see anything, but could hear the memories of the sound it made. Tech, tech. Pause. Tech, tech, tech. Again, and again, and again. Oh my God, the woman whispered. We moved closer, slowly. It didn't react, didn't turn its head, didn't shift its body. Only the mouth. The dry tongue tapped the roof of the mouth with metronome precision. There was an old recorder on the floor near the pillar. Broken wires ran from it up the column to the ceiling where scraps of speakers still clung. At some point, someone had used recorded sound there, then apparently decided they didn't need the machine anymore. They had made one. Observation number 18. If you train the monster to repeat a command, sooner or later it learns to call on its own.
The woman swallowed. He's copying. He's remembering, I corrected. I looked around. Bulletin boards pinned to the walls in some spots. Hand-drawn maps, dates, times, number of responses observed. I read, Batch 2, faster response to low-frequency sound. Batch 3, more sensitive to blood scent. Echo 1, Echo 2. On the pillar near the tied creature, someone had written with marker, Echo 3, click, functional pattern. My skin crawled. Her husband, she began. Said they studied behavior, I finished. She nodded, eyes bright without tears. I thought it was just field notes. This isn't the field, I said. It's a lab. The infected kept clicking its tongue. Even tied up, it seemed to command the hallway outside. Every time it ran the sequence, the sound bounced through the floors, out the open windows, across the buildings like a distant call. I could imagine infected out there lifting their heads, adjusting their steps, turning corners, like ants following a scent trail.
Timbre, deep, weary. Intensity, medium. Rhythm, fast, controlled. 92 BPM. I stepped closer. Its eyes didn't track me.
but its chest rose a little higher as I approached, like my molecules in the room changed the air. It didn't growl, didn't lunge. It seemed fully devoted to the movement of the tongue. Tuck, tuck, tuck. A living code, a beacon made of flesh. "Who did this?" the woman asked, her voice shaking with anger and disgust. "The same people who train the other sounds." I clenched my jaw. The click group isn't just survivors. It's people who decided that if the world turned into a slaughterhouse, the best place to be is holding the knife.
Timbre, deep weary, intensity, medium, controlled. "We should kill this, echo." "And shut off the beacon?" "Yes." "And if they have others?" She said nothing. The problem with pulling any thread in a collapsing world is never knowing which ceiling comes down first. There was more in the room. In a corner, a corkboard full of pinned pages, sketch maps, times, tallies of responses. One note drew me in more than the rest. A smaller sheet scribbled in a hurry. Click starting to appear spontaneously in some infected far from origin point. Possible memorization? Careful, code may get out of control. I ran my finger under the word spontaneously. If before it was conditioning, now it was behavioral contagion. They weren't just learning, they were copying. Timbre, deep weary. Rule number 21. Never follow a sound without asking first who taught this sound to the world. The scrape of a chair made me turn. The woman had bumped a rolling chair without noticing. The noise felt huge in that quiet room. The infected didn't turn its head. But for a heartbeat, the rhythm changed. Tick, tick, tick. Like its rotting brain tried to fit that new noise into the pattern it knew. Only then it reset. Tech, tech. Pause. Tech, tech, tech. "We shouldn't stay here," she muttered. Not yet. I went to the window. From up there, we could see part of the street. And what I saw wasn't reassuring. 3 infected walked in almost straight lines, crossing intersections without drifting, like they had somewhere to be. Every time the click echoed from our floor, they shifted course slightly, correcting, aligning. It wasn't sound calling loose monsters. It was sound calibrating broken compasses. "They're herding a flock," I said. "To where?" "Wherever the sound tells them." And the sound now came from this floor, from the tide echo. Then we heard a different kind of noise. Footsteps. Not dragging, not uneven. Human steps, decisive, coming up the stairs. We traded a look. Without words, we knew they were coming back. There wasn't much time. Shutting down the echo would expose us. Leaving everything as it was meant watching the manual of the end of the world being updated live. The woman glanced from the infected to me. "If they realize we saw this." "We become resource," I finished. The steps got louder, voices now, 2 or 3. "Closet," I said, pointing. Timbre, deep weary. We wedged ourselves behind a row of toppled lockers along the wall parallel to the pillar. From there, we could see the door, the echo, and part of the room, but we were just shadows. The sound of the door opening was almost calm. 3 people came in. Not the whistle crew. New faces, new clothes. Less sloppy, more method. One carried a hard case, another an old camera. The third, a woman in a stained white lab coat, something like a stethoscope stuffed into her pocket. She went straight to the infected. "Echo 3, she said, like greeting an employee. "Still going strong, huh?" Timbre, deep weary. Intensity, medium, rhythm, fast, controlled, 92 BPM. She brushed her hand lightly over its face, unafraid. It didn't react, just kept clicking. Tech tech, pause, tech tech tech. The man with the hard case opened a binder.
The routes responded well, he said. North sector adjusted. East sector slower, but still within expected range. And the south? South is still unpredictable. Too many interferers. Humans? Humans. She sighed, annoyed. We need them to start acting like cattle soon. The longer they think they're free, the more they mess up our map. My stomach flipped. Cattle? Map? They weren't just scientists. They were cartographers of collapse. The man with the camera filmed the infected up close, getting the mouth, tongue, the rise of the chest. Imagine if we can replicate this in 5 or 6 more hubs, he said. Then yes, the woman in the coat replied, excited. The city becomes a board. One breath here, they move there. The man with the binder flipped more pages. And the ones that start clicking on their own? She chewed her lip. Watch them. If they lose function, eliminate. If they repeat our pattern without being triggered, use them. She gave a sideways smile. The world ended, but at least we got unlimited test subjects. Their small laugh was more terrifying than any scream.
Timber, deep, weary. Intensity, medium. Fast, controlled. The woman beside me was gripping the barrel so hard I thought the metal might bend. I closed my hand around her forearm, gently, asking for calm. She was breathing through her mouth, trying not to let her nose give anything away. The conversation dragged on for a few more minutes. Words like dispersion, clean sector, speakers, lost batches. Speakers. One term came up twice. The speakers keep resisting, the woman in the coat said. Some still manage to click, shout, whistle, even in pain. Humans? For now. She smiled. But the line between a speaker and an echo is thin, if you know where to press. I wanted to leave right then, not out of fear of dying, fear of staying alive anywhere near people like that.
We should put a backup generator here in case the main fails, the binder man said. Later, she replied. For now, this one handles it. She tapped the infected shoulder twice, like praising a loyal worker. They left without looking at the rest of the room. When the door closed, the silence returned. But not the silence of absence, a silence of consultation. I could hear my own blood moving. The woman finally spoke. They're not just using the dead. They're training the city, I said, and whatever's left of the world.
Timber, deep, weary. Intensity, medium, rhythm, fast, controlled. I looked at the pillar. The infected kept working. Tech, tech, pause, tech, tech, tech. The urge to smash its skull was almost physical, more almost than ever. If we kill it, they'll know, she said. If we leave it, it keeps calling. So what do we do? I looked at the broken recorder on the floor, at the wires, at the board full of notes. Maybe the answer wasn't destroy. Maybe it was learn. I took one of the smaller sheets, folded it, shoved it into my pocket. On the board it said, "Never remain more than 40 minutes in echo's direct radius. Risk of pattern contagion." I stored that information like a hidden knife. We slipped back into the hall, down the stairs in absolute silence. On the second floor, I stopped, resting my forehead against the wall for a second. Now we know something new, I said. What? That there are people organizing hell and calling it research. She didn't argue. Back on the street, the clicking felt farther away, even though it came from the same place. Maybe because now I knew the source. And knowing where the monster calls from doesn't make being called any less terrifying.
Timber, deep, weary. Intensity, medium, controlled. We took a curved route, avoiding intersections lined up with Echo 3's building. At each corner, I sniffed the air without thinking, trying to figure out if my own fear had gotten stronger. By the end of the day, on a narrow rooftop of another building, I wrote, Day 8. The call wasn't human. but the intention was human all the way down. They trained a dead man to be a siren. Now his sound runs through the city like an order. The infected learn, the living teach, and whoever doesn't want to become an echo will have to choose what kind of silence to be. I closed the notebook. Tick-tack. Far away, again. Tick-tack. Pause. Tick-tack-tack. This time I answered only inside my head. I heard you, but I'm not following.